The advice and informational content does not necessarily represent the views of Mother's Market and Kitchen. Mother's recommends consulting your health professional for your personal medical condition.
Hello, I'm Kimberly King, and welcome to the Mother's Market Podcast, a show dedicated to the truth, beauty, and goodness of the human condition. On today's episode, there are toxic chemicals all around us, in our food, the topical creams we use, and the radiation from our electronic devices. Learn how we can all combat these chemicals and limit our exposure to live healthier.
But first up, Kristi Acuna is a holistic nutritionist who's been practicing for 17 years. Kristi has helped numerous clients by designing a specialized nutrition program. Her specialty areas are skin problems, hormones, gut balance, sleep, energy, weight loss, and mood support. She's already one of my dearest friends because of everything she does. We welcome her to the Mother's Market radio show. Kristi, you are a wealth of knowledge. How are you?
Thank you so much, Kim, for having me. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Great. Why don't you fill our audience in a little bit, if we don't know already, what your mission is and your work before we get to today's show topic?
Well, my mission and our purpose really is to help as many people as we can without the necessary use of drugs and surgery. So, our mission is to create a ripple effect in our community, bringing about awareness into lifestyle choices and the food and beverages and anything we're putting into our mouth, into our bodies, and making better choices and understanding that what we do put into our bodies is what the outcome of our quality of life is actually going to be.
Perfect. I could not have said that better myself. And you and I were just talking a little bit off mic, talking about, just everything that we've all gone through during this pandemic. And so I know you have a heightened awareness, and I can't wait to dig in with you. So today we're talking about how chemicals can affect our digestion. And there are so many things that we're learning about. But Kristi, what kind of chemicals do we put in our foods? And so let's talk about chemicals and how dangerous they are.
Yeah, well, there are so many chemicals. There are chemicals in our makeups. There are chemicals in our personal care products that we apply on the body, our shampoos. I mean, there's chemicals all throughout the shower, chemicals all in our toothpaste. There are chemicals in clothes we wear, and specifically, and the most important one is the food that we eat. There are chemicals in the foods that we eat. Even going organic does have some of these sprays in them, and the sprays are so damaging and so detrimental. They start wrecking and tearing at the protective linings of the intestinal system in your body over time. So, for example, our foods have glyphosate, they have pesticides, herbicides. I mean, they will have acetates. They have a lot of different types of sprays being sprayed on them. And it's really disrupting not only the crops, but the animals that are eating these plants and crops, but humanity. There's never been before, the human body has never been faced with so many heavy metals and chemicals than they have today. So it's pretty alarming.
How do we know what foods have chemicals in them? Is there a way to check?
Yeah, you absolutely can check. And it does take some due diligence and homework. Of course, you can always have a holistic nutritionist like me and you can, find out, what kind of chemicals, you may have in your body. But you can always read labels. Label reading is huge. And it's not just with foods, it's with personal care products. If you start reading personal care products, your lotions, your serums, even, for example, I know this is, a very popular topic, masks. These surgical masks, it's important to read the ingredients that are in them, especially because we're breathing, inhaling and exhaling through them all day long in many situations. So reading ingredients is where you will get more knowledge around what chemicals may be in food. And if you don't see, so sometimes beverages, especially like LaCroix and Zevias and all those more natural alternative ones, you'll see natural flavors. Natural flavors is in so many different things. And you want to think, oh, well, this LaCroix is a grapefruit, so it must just mean it is a natural grapefruit flavor from an essential oil or the actual grapefruit juice. But the truth is you really have to call the company and do your due diligence to find out, can you tell me what is in this natural flavors, and making sure that there's no, nothing from mold, nothing from MSG, nothing from any chemical ridden place or source.
What are along that line? And thank you that, going that extra mile and doing your due diligence. I think you really said how important that is. But first of all, would the company tell you if there was something like mold in there? And second of all, what are some other trigger words to look out for ingredients?
Trigger words, let's see. So extracts, a lot of products have stevia extract. That one is, many people think, oh, it's just, a piece of the stevia, but stevia extract actually has been found to not be a good, healthy ingredient in foods. Let's see, natural flavors, other chemicals. Sometimes you'll find, it's not often you'll find polysorbate, but you'll find more of, not often you'll find polysorbate in foods. You'll find more of that in your personal care or body products is where you'll find polysorbates. You really, if you're reading a label and you don't understand or recognize that it is food that's in it, that's when it's time to start pulling out Google and going further and calling the company. But there are a lot of hidden words. Calcium carbonate, I wouldn't say it's exactly a chemical, but it could be sourced from chemical. It is the worst absorbing calcium anyone could ever bring in their body. It's just cheap. But, same thing with safflower and sunflower oil. Many companies use sunflower and safflower oil. It's a cheaper oil that is not the best for the body. So that's other ones to look out for as well.
That's great. This is personally with the whole hormone thing and changing, and it's so interesting. I've really started to learn how to read labels because I just never experienced that this was going to happen. When you all of a sudden have a whole change of life, right?
Right. I even forgot the genetically modified. That's a huge topic and a huge problem right now is, all these companies have to label non-GMO. We thought we'd have to,
right.
You're looking out for something else. There's so many labels on the front of our foods. It's like, okay, this is free of this and free of that. What is left in this food?
How did they make it? Right. So
it?
Why do companies put chemicals in our foods and products?
Well, there is, a theory answer. And then there is, money. Many of these big conglomerates and these big corporations, they're not interested in our health. They don't care whether you're healthy or I'm healthy. They're interested in selling a product. So Coca-Cola, for example, high fructose corn syrup is a main ingredient. And high fructose corn syrup leads to cancer, tumors, skin problems, interrupts hormones. I mean, it does a total destruction in the body. And over time, it really creates diseases and problems. So Coca-Cola is a big conglomerate company. They don't have your health in their best interest. They have profits. They have their company's public. They've got investors and so the stock market to think about. So a big push, and they also have lobbyists that are paid to push these chemicals. It's really a big answer, Kim.
Okay. But I kind of figured, and it does money. It's the money trail right now too, right?
It is the money trail, and it's the cheap trail. It really is. And there are companies that are really trying to turn out a good product, but they are putting sunflower oil in versus like avocado or olive oil. And it just diminishes the whole point of their product because it is a oil that doesn't handle heat very well. And it's not the best for the body. So there are companies that are trying to do good, but they also have to make a profit as well. So they're trying so hard not to charge $20 per cookie, just to make it.
Right.
So they're finding that they have to compromise in some of their ingredients too. So the buck keeps getting passed down in, trying to create a good product, but yet you'll find some compromise.
The best way to make sure we aren't getting these chemicals is, would you suggest to eat real food without preservatives, fewer ingredients, the better? What would your suggestion be there?
Absolutely. One, read labels. The label reading is huge. Making sure that you know what the ingredients are. So if you're seeing a cracker, you know what almond flour is, you know what coconut flour is. But when you come to an ingredient that you don't know, let's say rosemary extract, that is an ingredient that is being used more in these alternative crackers. It's important to look it up so you have education around what you're putting in your body. So reading labels is huge. Calling the company and asking or emailing them is big as well. But like I said, reading labels is huge. Just get educated of what you're putting in your body.
Is there another form of chemicals we're exposed to besides food chemicals and product chemicals? Is there anything else that we should be looking out for?
I mean, yeah, there's chemicals, when there's seasonal change and there's high winds, those chemicals at the chemical plants, that moves chemicals, to different cities. So you'll notice people's allergies get worse. There's chemicals such as radiation. Radiation is a very big chemical. It's been around forever in microwaves, but now it's becoming, in the foods. So now we're getting, a little bit of radiation in these foods. We get it in our x-rays, MRIs. I mean, radiation is a chemical that infiltrates the people as well pretty easily.
Yeah, I can imagine. So the next question, what are the effects of these chemicals when it comes to our digestion? You did mention neurological, it could be in our stomachs. Do you have anything specific how it affects us?
Yeah, specifically, it starts wearing and tearing down our protective linings and our inner gut. We've got an epithelial lining, we've got a mucosal lining, and that's there to protect and keep those walls intact. So when bowel moves, it's scraping the linings of that wall and pulling all bacterias, all toxic material out. So when you have these chemicals like fragrances or like I said, radiations or GMOs or MSGs or anything like that, those are getting into the body and they start tearing down those protective walls. And when you tear those down over time, your immune system becomes very vulnerable and low. And, COVID, of course, has brought such an awareness to the immune system for everybody. And the last thing you want you to, be caught with is a low immune system. So it's really important to have a strong functioning gut because about 80% of your immunity is made in that gut system. That's why it's so important to really, have these health evaluations with naturopaths, holistic nutritionists, really in the natural community, branch out and get deeper evaluations to really understand, do I have chemicals in my body? Do I have chemicals in my foods? Do I have chemicals in my body care products that I use, my soaps, my deodorants, that, could be harming me? So take, for example, here's 2 examples. Perfume. Most women spray perfume on the throat. That is where your thyroid gland is. And we have such an epidemic of a low functioning, I definitely call it that word, epidemic. It's not on the news or anything, but trust me, in the health world, everyone's got a thyroid problem. And your thyroid is a butterfly-shaped gland in the throat, pumping out hormone to regulate cycles, sex drive, weight, hair, nails, skin. I mean, your whole functionality. You're either going to be happy or sad. It just depends on how your thyroid is balanced. So when you're applying these chemicals topically, it'll seep into those areas.
Wow. So
drawing energy from them.
I love your examples, Kristi, because it is true. Like even from the tearing down of the walls, and then topically, you're right. So say there is a thyroid issue. How long does that take to turn over? First of all, you have to train not to spray perfume there, but or walk me through this.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you do essential oils. Maybe you just
Mm-hmm.
change from using fragrances. I mean, I totally understand. I would have been caught at Nordstrom's buying, Chanel or
Yep.
Marc
I've been there.
Jacob too, right?
Yes.
We all want to
Right.
smell good.
Mhm.
But the thing is that these products really do infiltrate the skin, and your skin is your biggest eliminating organ you have. So, and it really is a mirror of what it looks like on the inside. So if you deal with acne or you deal with psoriasis or eczema, it is a mirror of what's happening on the internal system.
Wow.
I get it. We're trying to cover up smells and be fresh and smell good and, socialize.
Right. Right.
We can also change and use alternatives like essential oil type. I don't want to use the word perfume, but yeah, like essential oil type perfume, fragrance type things without
Fragrances.
fragrances. Yes, exactly. But again, our deodorants, they're full of fragrance chemical and full of aluminum. I mean, all of America is on it. A lot of people are starting to switch, but when you put it in that, the armpit area, that is your lymphatic. That's a lymphatic. I can't speak. That is a main area of where your lymphatic system is. So it's important to also understand, if you deal with cysts in the system or, in the throat, maybe like swollen lymph nodes, to start thinking about those kinds of chemicals in your body care products that you're applying on the skin, a living, breathing organ, and or your foods.
Very interesting information. I can have so many questions for you. So we're going to have more in just a moment. Let me take a quick break. We'll be right back with Kristi Acuna. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Mother's Market podcast, and we want to remind you that if you missed any portion of today's show, you can find us on iTunes by searching Mother's Market, or download the show from our website, mothersmarket.com. Click the link for podcast and listen to past shows. Plus, download our healthy recipes and money savings coupons. All available at mothersmarket.com.
And now back to our interview with holistic nutritionist Kristi Acuna. And we're talking about how chemicals can really affect not just our digestion, but also what we're putting on our bodies. You talked about deodorant, of course, perfumes, makeup, and different chemical products. So first, can we go back a step? And I want to talk to you about what does that system look like for testing, or how we evaluate what we're putting inside or on our topically?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There is many different ways to go about it. That's why I definitely, recommend get in touch with a natural practitioner, because that's where you're going to find these types of testing. There's really great tests. You can do some that are labs. You can test your hair for, how much minerals is there, or how much minerals is in your body, and is there any heavy metals or chemicals in the system. So there's hair testing. There is blood testing. I would say blood is not the most accurate for heavy metals and chemicals, but you can get that done. And then, of course, there is urine testing. Now, the testing that we do at my practice is called nutrition response testing. And this type of testing is done in a non-invasive way. And it comes from applied kinesiology. So basically, it allows us to find what chemical the body is responding to. So I can see, for example, we call them health checks. So when we're doing nutrition response testing, we have the client lay down and we're pressing on their arm, and then we're also palpating, different organ systems on the body, looking for a response. And then we will apply some chemical vials to the body to see and isolate where is this chemical on the body and what's a safe and natural solution in helping the body rid the chemical. So that is testing that we do, again, which is called nutrition response testing. And it's a non-invasive way for us to find immediately what the chemical is, where it's located, and how are we going to fix it. So I absolutely love nutrition response testing. Like I said, there are other labs that you can do. This one out of all of them has been the best and the fastest way to, creating a natural nutritional health program for each individual's needs.
So how long does that process take when you're doing, the labs, you probably have to wait for them to come back, but with specifically nutrition response testing, what does that take?
Well, with nutrition response testing, each individual is different. So it can be anywhere from 4 months to a year. We put people on programs and help assist and guide them on the supplements that they need to take that's specific to their body's needs, as well as dietary habits, because if they're bringing in chemicals to their food on a regular basis, but they're taking the supplements, it's just going to counteract one another. So they need to change lifestyle habits, body care products, foods. That takes time. It depends on how much they comply. Compliance is going to be a huge piece. So really to expect if a person complies with our recommendation and our guidance, like I said, everyone is different. So a detoxing road and path is going to be maybe shorter or longer to some people, but I would say on an average, minimum 6 months to really get those detoxification, those exit zones in the body to open up and start pulling, because there's a lot to pull, because we're constantly, bringing it back in. I mean, America is hooked on coffee. Coffee is
I am the worst. You're going to answer a question, and maybe that's it right there, because you said where I've hooked on coffee, and I literally look forward to my coffee. But again, I mentioned the hormone thing, and I go, "Whoa, that is not fair." That's just not right.
It's so not fair. And you know why? Because they didn't tell us and warn us and explain to us. They just told us. But caffeine, the coffee bean is a very high sprayed product. Part of why it is so destructive and unhealthy for the female and male, for the human body, period. So
thank you for saying that, because again, you just, you've been talking about the perfume, everything that we put on our bodies, and we just don't talk about that enough. And I love what you said about our skin is a mirror to what's happening from the outside to the inside. So I thank you, because really, you think, oh, I've got to go on a diet or do whatever, but you don't think about what is highly sprayed out there, like coffee.
Right.
Thank you for saying that.
It's not in the label. It's not in the ingredients. And it's important to push back a little and find out. There are companies that are making alternative products like Siete. Siete's huge right now. They've made tortillas, they've made non-dairy dips, they've made chips, and their claim to fame for their product is a grain-free product. And it's awesome. They use cassava. But the problem is it's not organic. That is my problem with them, is that so when I blatantly ask them straight out, so this is not organic, so it has been sprayed, so I am using sprays. I just need to hear that is what's happening. And that is what's happening with a lot of these products, because the price point has to be there.
Yeah.
So it really, again, goes back to the money trail. And that's what ends up happening. But do I buy Siete? Yes, I still buy Siete. But I know what I'm getting, and I, moderate it. So
right.
I'm on
what about? Yeah. So no, I mean, this is going to be eye-opening for me, and for a lot of the listeners here. What about sourcing a coffee that is less full of chemicals? Do you have any sources for coffees, or do we have to go cold turkey on that?
It's a bit of a grayish area answer. So as far as coffee goes, if you are a coffee drinker, until you're ready to start weaning down and stop being so dependent on it, you just need to go completely organic, certified organic coffee. I wouldn't even go for a decaf. Decaf is almost worse because of the chemicals they use to remove the caffeine.
Oh,
that's something to keep in mind, because people ask that all the time. Well, should I do decaf? No, unless it is a water processed caffeine removal. Then but these are things when you're doing drive-through at Starbucks, the person handing you isn't gonna fully know what it is. But so it's important to do your due diligence. If you are currently buying coffee and pressing it and doing it yourself at home, make sure it is GMO and certified organic coffee. And I would even go as far as calling the company and say, is there any sprays, or has there been any that have leaked into this product? I go that far. I mean,
I know I'm going to hire you. I think just on the side, I'm going to put Kristi on my side. Spicy
All these
Kristi.
big companies.
I will. I'm loving that. Tell me a little bit about what changes should we be feeling when we get rid of these chemicals, and slowly but surely, how will our bodies feel? Please tell me, not so bloated.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great question. So at first you might not feel so good. At first, when you're, pulling out any type of, heavy metal or chemical, it's important to go at the pace of the body. And since what we do is tailored specifically to each individual's needs, I can tell how many tablets to start with. And then we're monitoring, each week to make sure how they're doing and what's going on. So if anyone's at home doing it themselves, it's important to start slow, no matter what the bottle says. Even if you're just following the bottle, start slow. Maybe start with half or a third of the dose, because you may throw yourself into a detox crisis where you're feeling bloated, you have a headache, you're exhausted. Fatigue will probably be a big one. So going slow can help, one, assist your body, giving it the tools it needs to start pulling it out. Remember, these are chemicals that have been stored. You may be peeing, sweating, and pooping, but these are chemicals that are stored and trapped in tissues and folds and in the body. So pulling it out is, not always easy. It's like as if you haven't cleaned your blinds for 30 years. And then all of a sudden you open them and you take a Swiffer or a wiper and you're wiping them. And now all of a sudden you have allergies.
Have you been in my house lately? Because I was just doing that last night, and I'm like, I can see clearly now the rain is gone, right? It's just like that.
That's exactly it. The body, that's what happens. You start forcing it in a positive way to pull out the dust or the heavy chemicals of the metals. That's the metaphor for the dust, in case that wasn't clear. The body reacts to it because you've got to throw it into the river to bring it out, and that takes energy from the body to do that.
I think this is great. I like your analogy. Talk about what kind of foods or diet we should be eating and adhering to make sure we're not getting these chemicals.
Well, one, definitely certified organic, 100%. Just make the crossover. It doesn't even matter anymore. You got to invest your money. Just don't even think about it. It's done. Got to go organic. So that's important.
Okay.
Mother's Market is awesome for their organic produce. So that's just done. You got to do that. That's step one. You got to go all organic. And two, you've got to read labels. And if you don't know how to read labels, you can always, see a professional. You can always, come into my practice, Holistic Nutrition Center. This is part of how we educate you and teach you how to read labels, what to look for. But you can also use Google or DuckDuckGo to show you, give you a more insight of what that ingredient is if you don't know. And you can do that right there in the store. It's easy. Another app that's actually really cool, or an app that's cool, is Dirty. Oh shoot! It's ThinkDirty. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask you this. Okay, ThinkDirty is the app, and that gives you. It's like reading labels.
Well, what it does is it's got a barcode feature that you can add, or you can just type it in, the actual product, and it will tell you if it's dirty or clean, and you can look to see if the ingredients were rated dirty or clean. And isn't for food. It's for your laundry care. It's for your personal care products. It's for that kind of stuff. Anything.
Do they have one for food? Do you know?
I don't think they have one for food.
Let's talk about exercise and how we can, as we're ridding all of these toxins, what do you say about exercise?
Oh, exercise is absolutely a must. I don't think that everybody has to join a CrossFit gym and jump boxes, 7 days a week, but I definitely think that we need to get some movement to help our lymphatic systems drain and move. Jumping is a great way to get that done. A little trampoline. Jumping on a trampoline is great, even if you just got one of those little individual trampolines. Jumping on it gets the lymphatic system to not be so stagnant, so it can move fluids and toxic material through. So that's an easy, simple one. I recommend, I mean, plugging into classes is always great because you have the support of the people and accountability of the teacher. I always recommend for people to work out about 3 times a week, making sure to have some rest days in between. And with 3 days a week, of course, you'll have rest days for your body to recover, heal, and repair, because the downtime is where the body heals and repairs and loses weight and detoxes. That's when
Okay,
the
that's great.
happens.
Love it.
Mhm.
What about, we talked about coffee. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna let you answer. Coffee and caffeine. Are there things we can drink to help us rid these chemicals?
Are there things we can drink?
Mm-hmm.
Well, water would be a great first step.
That's what I
Flushing
thought you
your
were gonna say.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
flushing your body with water is the first beverage to definitely add in. And you're going to want to drink about half your body weight in ounces. So if you're
Okay.
200 pounds, you need to start drinking about 100 ounces.
Okay.
And if you're working out, you are losing fluids because you're sweating. So I always say throw like 10 to 15 ounces on top of it.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is great information. You mentioned the body repairing. Let's also talk about sleep. And I was, yeah, literally when you're saying, Ron, when we have rest and recovery days, how important is sleep?
Sleep is so important. It is the time between 12 and 2 a.m. is when the body starts to shut down, heal, restore, and repair. So when we are awake between that time, it throws off the nervous system balance to get the body, to get the liver, to get the whole system to start healing and repairing. So it's very important to go to sleep at least by 11:30 to really try. So you
Hmm.
can get a good amount, 7, 8 hours of sleep and also endure that repairing time.
That's great advice. And it is true. You think about always exercise, exercise, but it's on the downside, sleeping and recovering.
Absolutely.
Your top 3 recommendations for, I guess, you know what, and I know I love that you said read labels and then certified organic, look for the GMO and all of that. But what do you have any other top 3 recommendations for how to live a healthy lifestyle?
I do. I do. Let me think. Top 3. Besides what I said, or what I say, I said organic. I said get sleep and
Mhm.
exercise. Yeah, I would say, well, let's start with the first one. I think love is huge.
Oh.
I think love is huge. And I think making love to express those endorphins, especially oxytocin, those are your
Mhm.
happy hormones. And when you're happy, your coworkers are happy, your boss is happy, your bank account gets happy. So
Love it. All that's in the win column all over it. I love that.
yeah. So don't forget that part. We can be, miserable while we're eating organic and exercising and drinking all this great water. If we don't incorporate love with our partners or ourselves, it almost isn't worth it to be so strict and do all of this. So it is important to have, love. Second thing, it may not be everybody's favorite, but journaling is great.
Mm.
Getting your thoughts and your feelings out onto paper or on your computer, it really takes a load off. I know
Mm.
I am not a writer, and I have found that I will just start typing, things I'm thinking, and just to get that negative or self-talk or whatever it might be out of the body onto
Mm.
computer or paper.
I love that.
Room and space for you to heal and be good, because your body will
Mhm.
feed off negative thoughts, and don't feed it.
Don't do it. I love that. That's
Yeah.
great. I think perfect.
Yeah.
Um, do you have another one?
Sorry, my third one. Sorry. I'd say my third one is connectivity. Don't forget to
Mm.
socialize, connect, hug. Make sure that you're connecting with your friends, your neighbors, your people, your family. That is huge. And I think that's something that's been, pulled away from everybody is touch. And I think it's time that, people begin that trust again, that, it is okay and we can get touch back, within to our family and the people around us.
I love all of those. I think that's great. And what a fun interview. Some of these things we don't even think about. So I really, Kristi, appreciate your time and some great advice. We look forward to having you back on again. But in the meantime, you can get more information on Kristi. The website is hncnewport.com. And we look forward to your next visit.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you want to learn more health information, check out mothersmarket.com. Get delicious recipes and health guidelines to keep your body in great shape. Thanks for listening to the Mother's Market podcast and for shopping at Mother's Market.
The advice and informational content does not necessarily represent the views of Mother's Market and Kitchen. Mothers recommends consulting your health professional for your personal medical condition.